Hi, doctor. Welcome back to the channel and continuing with the Harish Rana case and the video that we first did. We also spoke about a follow-up video to the death to dignity case, and how one can what actually this is, and how is it different from a living will, and how one can actually practically work around this. So just to kind of start off with, I have one interesting question that, doctor, like, to begin with, when people actually hear about right to die, it can actually sound alarming, right? So what does this term actually mean in a legal context or in a medical context? If you could just help us understand.
Yeah. So thanks first of all, and I think we are going to have a little deep dive in the whole discussion altogether around death with dignity. So in the olden days, people had a problem of how do we survive. Yeah, as in there were so many problems, famines, lack of food, lack of water, so many problems, many infections, so on and so forth. Now by far and large we at least can say that we are out of most of those types of problems, and now we are kind of dealing predominantly with chronic diseases. Yeah, so our main problem today is that slow debilitating kind of diseases, which can be hypertension, diabetes, kidney disorder, heart, just simple aging, a brain getting aged out so much that you'll end up having things like dementias. Now, these are those kinds of problems whereby the person's quality of life becomes poorer and poorer and poorer. Okay,
Right.
person may stay alive, but the quality of life might become very, very poor. Now, today, there are so many medical advances which are available, and because of which you can literally speaking replace
Right.
functionality of a given particular organ. Let's take example of dialysis machine. Kidneys are not working. You keep on doing dialysis.
Yes.
That dialysis machine will exactly do the same job as that of kidneys. So,
Correct.
similarly, ventilators will replace the lungs. Heart lung machine may replace the heart. So, technically, keeping a person alive is a very much a possibility, although the person will be stuck to machines, tubes,
Yeah.
and all sorts of things. So, will the person be able to live normal life? Maybe not. But will the person be able to stay alive? Maybe yes. Right? Now,
Right.
imagine a situation of somebody who is in such kind of a scenario where he's technically alive just for the sake of being called as alive. Let's take example of Harish Rana. For
Yeah.
last 12, 13 years, this particular gentleman, a young chap, is literally lying motionlessly in the bed.
Hmm.
Okay, but he's alive. So he is literally like a trapped soul in a body. Okay.
Yeah.
Beyond that, his existence has no real meaning to it. And
Yeah.
we all have seen many such kinds of scenarios happening around us,
Yeah.
especially with the elderly. And that's why this whole movement of death with dignity, okay, came
Yeah.
into picture. So
Yeah.
when such kinds of scenarios are there, where we have a problem as to by giving treatment, whether we are prolonging someone's life or whether we are delaying someone's death meaninglessly becomes a question mark in itself. The
Yeah.
question of right to die or death with dignity comes into picture. Now, colloquially, for thousands and thousands of years, we all know that causing anything, which will take away life of a human being, okay, has always been considered as some sort of a criminal offense.
Yeah.
I mean, you may not call it as murder, maybe you might call it as a culpable homicide, maybe you might call it as assisting someone to perform suicide or some such kind of a thing. But the
Yeah.
difference between the word suicide and euthanasia is that a person who commits suicide, okay, is considered to be technically having a mental disability or a mental derangement, and that's why it is out of a psychiatric disorder like frustration, etc., where he wants to take his own life.
Nice.
Whereas euthanasia is a scenario where the person has very well thought of,
Hmm.
the cause, the reasons, and it can also be substantiated by the medical condition that the person is suffering, where the doctor says that, look, I can keep you alive, but I cannot actually give you the quality of life. Okay, so there is a lot of substantiation from the medical field or from the side of the biological assessment or medical assessment, and that's what really differentiates between euthanasia and suicide. But over a period of time, now the law and judiciary has also started understanding this. So in the past, even person committing suicide, even is unsuccessful in committing suicide, people used to file a criminal case against that person. Now that particular section of the law is deleted from our law. This is
Hmm.
the story with suicide. Then obviously euthanasia is definitely not suicide, definitely not a criminal offense. So there was a need to, liberate or give that, recognize and give that particular right to die. And that's how right to die with dignity came into picture. And Supreme Court said that, well, right to die with dignity also forms the part of right to live, which is
Hmm.
given by Article 21 of our Constitution. However, Supreme Court said that active euthanasia in our country is still not allowed. What is active euthanasia? You take medicine, you take injection, and you end the life. Okay, so that is called as active euthanasia. What is passive euthanasia? Basically, you withhold or withdraw any such kind of a treatment, okay, which will just keep on prolonging someone's life. So imagine a
Right.
situation that there is somebody who is on ventilator, or imagine somebody whose heart has stopped, but the gentleman is already known to be,
Hmm.
in a debilitating condition, already say cancer ka last stage or something like that. Okay, if you withhold giving him the cardiac shock and restart his heart and all that, then that will be considered as passive euthanasia. So now,
Right.
number one, that is very clear is that in our country, right to die with dignity is recognized, but it is recognized only to the extent of passive euthanasia and not to the extent of active euthanasia. And in Supreme Court's judgment, common causes versus union, the Supreme Court gave us a framework to follow. Certain things the citizens have to do, and
Hmm.
certain things the state has to do. Now,
Right.
we all know that the states have not done adequately, and that is why I had filed the public interest litigation in the Bombay High Court, and I have filed one another petition in the Supreme Court, which is going to come up on here for hearing on 1st of April. That is tomorrow, as we are recording this particular video today.
Yep.
So that is going to impose a lot of responsibility on the states to provide for the mechanism, okay, for passive euthanasia. But the aim and objective of today's video is to make our citizens understand as to what do they need to do if they
Right.
want to really avail this particular right to dignity, right to die with dignity.
Right. 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 So, actually, thanks a lot, doctor, for kind of deep diving into this topic and making us understand the smaller nuances around it.
Yes.
This leads to a second question that I have in my curious head is that I mean I have known of a regular will. This is now a living will. So does this fall under a regular will kind of a category, or it's totally different? And if yes, then how do how does someone do it practically?
So it's a very valid question and a very common question that is asked. So thank you for asking that question. So will is typically supposed to be done for your belongings and your property.
Yeah.
Yeah. And will comes into existence after you die. So you must
Hmm.
have seen those old Hindi movies, when the
Yeah.
Shethji dies, then some 7 8 days later, a lawyer comes and he brings out a lifafa and
Right.
removes and reads and all that. So the
Right.
time frame is what Shethji has died 8 days back, and 8 days later is the time frame for the will.
Right.
So will is comes into existence or applicability after the death of the person. Whereas a living will is supposed to be a document which you make where you express your wish about which treatments you want and which treatments you don't want
Point.
when you are at that point, or you can say at that point of no return, when you
Hmm.
are on the verge of probably critically ill or dying. So the timing is obviously different. Living will comes into existence when you are theoretically alive, but you are
Yeah.
almost on the verge of dying or something like that. And
Hmm.
whereas the actual will is the property will comes into existence post humus post death. And obviously, living will basically expresses about your wills and wish about the medical treatment that you want to or we don't want to have. And will basically talks about your property and all that kind of stuff. Yeah.
Right.
So
Right.
a lot of people tell that in my will I have written that don't give me this treatment, that treatment, but that's useless because your will be only opened after you die.
Die.
Yeah, so there is no point in writing those things in your will. So you need a separate document called as living will. Now, the question in front of the Supreme Court was that should we kind of sort of say that, well, yes, we must have similar type of a procedure. You require a lawyer, you require registration of the will and all that. And Supreme Court said, no, we don't want that kind of a system. So Supreme Court prescribed for a little different type of a system, something called as a quasi-judicial probably kind of a system. And here is how we are supposed to kind of go ahead with this particular making of a living will. Now, number one, for making a living will, first and foremost, you must be very clear in your own mind that you want to make a living will. That's number one.
Right.
Second important thing, you need to understand what are the things that you want to write in your living will. There are many drafts available. As a matter of fact, the draft that I used or that I made for my own advance directive or living will, I have kept it on my website. People can happily go to my website, download the draft. It is free for download. This draft can definitely be used as a step, okay, to make your own decisions. This particular draft has got a watermark behind, and the whole idea of having the watermark is only that I don't want people to copy
Yeah.
meaninglessly or mindlessly. I want them to read each and every sentence, ask that question to their own self. If they want to accept it, they may write it in their own will, or they may change it, or whatever that's there. There are many drafts available on internet from various other countries who have a
Mm.
system already in existence and place. People can go through those drafts also and make their own advance directive draft. I don't think there is any great point in going to a lawyer prima facie, because how and what you don't want, your lawyer or nobody else can decide. You alone can decide about it. So in my draft, let's say I have written that if I am above the age of 75 and if I am suffering from any such kinds of debilitating disorders where a real recovery is not possible, such as terminally ill being with cancer or Alzheimer's or dementia, so few such examples are given. And then I have said that in such conditions only this passive euthanasia or this advance directive or living will should come in picture. And I have written that I don't want somebody to give the shock. I don't want
Yeah.
I don't want somebody to put me on ventilator. I don't want tubes to be inserted, so on and so forth. But I have categorically said that while we do so, at the same time, I definitely want to see to it that adequate amount of painkillers are given, adequate amount of palliative care is given, so that when I am at that stage, I don't want to suffer by pain, because ultimately pain has a direct connection with dignity of a human being. So that's why
Yeah.
I have said that, these things definitely should be done, but every individual may make their own choice and decision, and I'm not going to go beyond that, because otherwise the whole discussion will go on some different line and length only. These are few pointers that I have given. People can expound on those, take help of friends, colleagues, doctors, lawyers, whosoever, and make their own draft of their advance directive. This is point number one. Now, once it is made under the framework which is given by the Supreme Court, we are supposed to notarize this advance directive or living will. You can also take a signature of a gazetted officer, but I would say notarization because that's widely and very easily available. So when you go to the notary, you should take two witnesses along with you. There is
Yeah.
no need to have a stamp paper, legal paper, green paper, this size paper, that size paper. Nothing is required. You just go to the custodian, show this particular thing to the custodian, sorry, to the notary, and the notary will put his notarization stamp and signature and seal and all that kind of a thing. So you have your advance directive on a piece of a paper. You went with two witnesses. You made the notary. Now the notarization is done.
That's
Okay, so
done.
this can be very easily managed. Once this is done, now comes the next important process, that is submitting this particular copy of this advance
Mm.
directive or living will to an officer called custodian.
Yeah.
Now, custodian is supposed to be appointed by the state. Okay.
Okay.
Now, in Maharashtra, When I made my own advance directive, I realized that there was no custodian appointed. So I filed a public interest litigation, and we got 413 odd custodians appointed in the state of Maharashtra. Now, factually speaking, each and every city, Mahanagarpalika, Nagarpalika have custodians in place. So every individual, particularly in Maharashtra, can go to that custodian, give the copy of this advance directive or living will. I am specifying, give the copy to the custodian, not the
Yeah.
original one, and take the signature of the custodian on your original copy.
Hmm.
Okay. So you have done your job of submission. Your original has the seal or the sign that this has been submitted
Right.
to the custodian. Once this is done, the process is complete at your end. Now you make couple of Xerox copies and give these Xeroxes to your near and dear ones. So in the living will, the draft of the living will, you will realize if you read through, you will realize that I have said that you need to appoint some one or two or three people who will be your executors. It means
Right.
under
Right.
this will draft, you are giving them the power of attorney to show this document to the doctor and act upon this particular document or the wills and wishes expressed by me or by the
Yeah.
patient or by the person. So those people to whom you are giving this power of attorney, okay, or you are calling them as executors. So typically you should hold one meeting with these people. Usually
Right.
they will be your friends or your children or whatever, and explain to them that you made such and such these people. These are the copies originally kept at such and such place. So in such kind of an eventuality, it is expected from them that they will bring this particular, take this copy, give it to the doctor, and then the doctor will start the further process of giving effect to that particular
That
living.
particular
So
document.
this is the procedure that has been laid down. So, in short, if I say that how to make a living will, that whole discussion gets summarized here itself.
Yeah.
Where to submit it? Well, I don't have an answer where to submit it beyond Maharashtra because the custodians were appointed by my peer in Maharashtra state, and I am hopeful that after tomorrow's hearing in the Supreme Court, probably whole of the country probably will have custodians. For those who are in Maharashtra and Mumbai, my message to all will be if you are in Mumbai, then every ward office has one person employed or appointed as medical officer of health, MOH. So if you
Okay.
are in Mumbai, at every ward there is a health officer, medical officer of health. They are the custodians for Mumbai. It's very easy, so you don't have to go far away also. If you are in Maharashtra, a list of 413 custodians is with me. Unfortunately, I don't think Maharashtra government has given a wide publicity to it. Nevertheless, if somebody messages us on or sends us a DM or something, we can definitely hand over that particular list of custodians, and every
Sure.
individual can find out as to from their area who is the custodian, and accordingly go there and submit their own advance directive. So for Maharashtra, we can help them with the names and the details of the custodian. For Mumbai, I told you that in the world you can
Yeah.
find out the MOH and they will work for.
MOH. Great.
So this is the part that the citizens have to do from their own side. Okay.
Sure.
Now, two, three important questions come into picture as to if I made my living will, can I withdraw it? Answer is yes, you can withdraw it. Can I change it? Answer is yes, very much you can change it. If somebody finds some 4, 5, 6 living wills, then which will have applicability? The answer is that the last one which you made will have applicability. So
Right.
there is no need to think that today I have given these instructions. What if
Yeah.
mind changes tomorrow? Okay, no problem. You can always withdraw and put a new one based on the current or situation at that point. Let me give an example that today I have made a will and I say that, well, if I have got, say, dementia, then living will should come into picture. And what after 15 years, dementia becomes a perfectly treatable condition? Well, it's very simple. I just go and remove that word dementia, put a new living will.
Updated. Yeah.
It's as simple as that. And that's how we can technically manage this particular type.
Great. 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 Thanks a lot for actually, discussing this. Even for a person like me, I mean, a layman like me, I understood a lot. Uh, to close it out, doctor, closing thoughts. If there's like one thing you want people to take away from today's conversation, what would it be?
So, two things. Number one, take charge of your own health. Try to be as healthy as possible. At the same time, accept the fact that there is a body, and the body is going to fail at some points of time. It's an inevitable part of life, and be prepared for it. Be vigilant and be prepared for it. Number one. Number two, don't shy away from talking about such kinds of things, although it's not a pleasant kind of a discussion to have. But don't
Yeah,
shy away. By shying away, the truth is not going to go away.
yeah,
Number three, see to it that you spread this discussion, this awareness to as many people as possible. Because I have found that the biggest contribution that I have made, probably by talking about this or doing one myself, is that I have broken the barrier. Because up
yeah,
till now, what used to happen was this was a no topic of discussion. Anywhere in any kind of, even in for that matter, in anybody's house, you know,
yeah, yeah.
people would not want to talk. I mean, if there is some elderly person or something, the next generation would just simply shy away from talking about it because baat kaise karne ka, right?
Hmm.
So I think this particular video will be helpful in kind of breaking that silence, bridging that gap, and having more fruitful conversations and making, in fact, people more enabled, okay,
Yeah.
to take their own decisions in their own interests of dignity. Dignity is in life, dignity also is in death, and let's strive hard to maintain both, to make living a more comfortable thing to happen.
Sure, Doc. So I hope so. This kind of video reaches out to as many people as possible, and this message also kind of reaches out and becomes a viral video. I will make sure the website is plugged onto the video as well and onto the description box as well, so that people can go to the website, refer to the draft, and take their own decisions. And like Doctor said, there's going to be a watermark, so you just cannot copy. He wants you to read each and every statement, each and every line, and take a decision. So, thanks a lot, Doctor, for this insightful conversation. We'll keep on chatting and bringing new videos on new topics to our audiences. Thanks a lot, Doctor.
Thank you so much.